Alright, what is going on, guys? Solve Scoob back with another episode of Scoob Reviews. Today I thought we would go over my XA2 submission, because there's a lot I want to talk about in here, and it was a big stepping stone in my skill progression. So obviously, for people I don't know, XA2 was Exile Aesthetics' second editing competition that they put out. And so the first one was, I believe, maybe over the summer, and the second one was in October, which is the submission that this is for. Yeah, it was, the rules were, has to be over a minute, excluding outro and intro, have to use the clips provided, and then they wanted montage style editors and not like edit style, like heavy on the effects. I don't know. Basically montage style editing, which was what they wanted, so I went for that. And yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so off the bat, I like this intro. It's got a lot of cool camera movement, and that's what really made it stand out, is that it doesn't feel bland, it doesn't feel linear. You feel like you're really kind of like traveling along with it. But as you can see, obviously at this time I did not have my gaming PC, so I had to record the cinematics on Xbox. That was not ideal, to say the least, because they look really shitty compared to everything else. Like, you can just tell that they're not PC cinematics. I like this little glitch effect on the text. I was looking for a way to make the text and the logo sort of like more interesting, but also not like a really big noticeable effect, and that was the perfect medium, because it's like obviously pops in and out, it's not there all the whole time. I thought this was a cool build-up shot. I built up the glow, had a little camera damage there, and sort of tinted it as well. This was a really cool way to start out the edit. This song, I feel like I flowed really well on. Like, it's not exactly rock, it's like pop rock, like electronic rock or something. Like, it's not true rock, so I thought it was a good medium for me. Like, I could still really easily flow, but I wasn't sort of absorbed into the really hard effects that would necessitate a rock edit. These cinematics are pretty boring, honestly. This one I didn't mind, actually. I kind of liked, had a little bit of speed to it. This clip some people put it in, but Paul or Cruiser actually gets a kill with the pulse rifle before he pops Goldie, and I didn't put it in. I don't know why, I must have forgot. But so what I'm doing in this clip is every time he gets a shot, I blur it on the shot, which was kind of questionable, honestly. Like, I really didn't know how that worked out. It kind of, like, if I could do this again, I'd probably blur it on skips that weren't shots, because when you're editing a clip, you want to, like, if you're doing montage editing, you want to prioritize clip visibility, and that's really important. And it's really noticeable when editors are making a montage and they don't prioritize clip visibility, because then they're just showing off their editing style. And it's like, there's definitely a time and place for that, which is like editing challenges and like small edits that you're doing. But when you're editing a 3-minute montage, like, the priority should be on the clips. Like, that's why you're there, is to showcase the clips. And so it isn't a huge deal. Like, it doesn't take away a ton of visibility, but I just would have rather put it on beats that weren't shots. This cinematic is just really boring, honestly. Not moving. Player character's not moving. There's barely any like camera movement of like panning. It's just like, damn, that's boring. Flow on this slug shotty clip is nice. Love editing slug, shotgun, chaperone, stuff like that. Super easy to flow on. There's a lot of room for creativity. Like, you can split up the beats and shit. It's really nice. Yeah, you can always like speed up shots, make them look like quick scope shots. There's a lot of different things you can do, and that's really nice. Alright, also let me talk about this clip. I don't know why. I truly cannot figure it out, but Alone as a God is, at least in this edit that I was doing, was a pain in the ass to sync. I could not figure out why. Like, it was just, I just couldn't get the speed right, the timing. Like, the scoping was too fast. Like, it was just really weird. It was such a weird thing to work around, and I was getting so frustrated at the time because I couldn't find a good way to sync it. And I eventually just like settled on this, which isn't that bad, but looking at the other submissions for XA2, there were a lot better ways I could have gone about this. Another thing to speak on is the warp. Alright, so if you've noticed, there's a lot of warp in this, and that shouldn't happen because these are PC clips. Like, I'm pretty sure they're all PC clips. Like, so far we've just seen Paul, Lego, and AVP. They all play in PC. There should literally be like almost no warp, and so the problem was this is really stupid, but at the time I didn't know that you could like set Twixtor to 60 FPS, so I had them on 30, and that's why there was so much warp, is because I was using Twixtor for 30 FPS clips on 60 FPS clips, and it was just a whole big mess. Like, it was just bad. This was kind of like a cool X-Spec style transition where you're like zooming in, trying to continue the clip motion into a cinematic, which I didn't think was that bad, actually. If I blurred it, it would have been perfect because it would be a lot easier to sort of see the continuity here. But this cinematic that I'm looking at right here, I love the movement in this. It's so like quick and snappy, and it feels like it's sort of like a COD cinematic because there's a ton of movement. There's like a lot of panning. It's like, yeah, it's just so nice. Like, this is why Destiny needs like a theater mode or like a dolly cam, so you can get these long takes like this. that allow you to do cool transitions like that. What I did here, my first initial idea was there's a wall over here, and I was gonna continue this motion and then mask out the wall to like have the right side be to the right of this pillar and have that be a transition, which would have looked cool if I could pull it off, but I don't think I could have pulled it off at the time, so I just went with this instead, and I just matched the motion of the two cinematics really well, honestly. Like, it just looks, oh man, it's so nice. That's one of my better cinematic transitions, and it would have been so much better with blurb. Yeah, there's some really bad warp here. It's super noticeable. And again, this clip was PC, so there should really be no warp, but I'm stupid. Okay, this cinematic is probably the worst one in the entire edit. It's just like feels choppy, and it doesn't even really fit with the clip. Then we have Lego's bow clip, which I thought was cool. I had some good flow on this, like a nice impact shot right there, the flicker. Yeah, this clip was just really clean in general. This cinematic transition was actually pretty cool. I didn't plan this. I was just last minute needed 2 cinematics and went with that. And then when I put them in, I actually realized that I sort of like did that, where the background of this clip was like basically the cinematic, which was cool. Yeah, I don't really know why when I was using a warp shot, it like, I think I didn't move the center down or something, or I should have moved the center down because it pulled in the top of the Darcy scope a lot more than the bottom, and that's kind of noticeable. I probably should have moved that. Some Darcy quick scopes that I thought were pretty good, actually. I think I used Twitch on a lot of like, where I don't really need to, on a lot of like jumps in this, where I'm like jumping from shot to shot. This like motion track clip, I thought it was alright. It probably could have been done better. Like, the text does look weird. I could have motion tracked it somewhere else. Like, there's a lot more interesting things in this part of Midtown to look at. Like, there's a giant billboard up here that would have been cool with some rays coming out. But it wasn't that bad. It doesn't really take a ton away from the final product. But what does actually bother me is that I tried to match the motion by zooming in. It just looks really weird, yeah, because the motion of the natural like cinematic is going to the left. It's not going like zooming in, and so I had to artificially do that, and then it just like the whole thing feels weird. Alright, zoom in cinematic. This is fine. Nothing wrong with these. I have no problem with them. If you can make them good, they look really good. But one mistake I did here was I used some vertical shape to like emphasize like the importance of the shot, and it would have worked a whole lot better if I had just changed like the frequency and the amplitude. Good idea, poor execution basically. And this motion track is really bad. It's like super obvious. Like here, it's like sort of tracked to one part of the wall, and then you like skip ahead and it's like, oh, it moved, which is what you don't want in motion track. You want it to stay exactly where like the observer should think it would stay the entire time. And also, I don't even know what I was doing with this shadow. I don't know if that's the correct orientation. I just thought it would be cool. Something that you can notice if you slow down, the bounds of this logo are only like this big. I didn't extend the bounds at all because I think I was just being lazy, or I like just forgot to do it. So the rays look really, really bad because they're confined to the bounds, obviously, and that's super noticeable. This cinematic isn't bad, but there's no blur or anything or scale transition. It's just, we're gonna cut it, which is okay sometimes. I know I harp on my cutting a lot. Like, it's definitely okay to cut sometimes, but if you're doing it every time and you're not even making an attempt to sort of like do some sort of other effect transition, then it's like noticeable. So this clip was really weird. It kept scuffing for me. Also, shout out the shake scope effect that I always do and abuse like a mofo. And another interesting thing about whisper clips is that sometimes they flow super nice because the whisper scopes in slow, so you have a lot of time to work with, and you can like sort of paint like a motion pattern of like when you scope in and shoot with whisper because it goes so slow. And it just like, I just couldn't do it here. I think the scope C was throwing me off. Let me go to this cinematic, which was not that bad, but it still looks like shit because it's from Xbox. So that's it. And I feel like, really quickly, I want to talk about why this Alone as a God clip was so hard to sync for me, and I think it was because of how quickly Alone as a God scopes in. Like, it had a super quick scope in speed, and so it's tough to be able to balance that when you don't have a lot of scope in frames to work with. Like, with Whisper, you have a ton of frames to work with where you're scoping in, and that's why it's so easy to develop a good flow. But with Alone as a God, it can be tricky sometimes because you scope in so quickly, you don't really have a lot of breathing room on that scope. I actually thought my CC was pretty good here. It's like getting better, you can tell from edit to edit. I used Magic Bullet film for this, so that's like the big difference. It wasn't the best. Like I definitely would have changed it and taken out some color, like made it tint more if I could go back. Yeah, it was definitely getting better. Big improvement from Loop. All right, that's gonna be it for the Scoob Reviews, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Peace.